going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 209. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him... sitting here on a Monday, sunny, victorious, Austin, Texas, coming off a home victory over the expansion side San Diego FC, and coming off a hell of a weekend for you and I and our good buddies who were in town, and of course some other buddies who live here in town. But, it was a wild one, an exhausting one, and again, capping it off with the Sunday afternoon victory. I think I know the answer to the question, but you will get it, of course, as you always do. How you feeling, my friend?
Hurting.
It's a good hurt, though, right?
Yeah, it's a good hurt. I feel like I aged maybe 5 years over the last 3 or 4 days here. A fantastic weekend all around. Got a great bike trip in. Got a 100-mile ride down in there in Lockhart. And then we had a couple parties that we had to go to, which was great. My voice is gone because of the screaming that I was doing yesterday while we're trying to hold on to for dear life to get those 3 points there. But what an incredible weekend. I had a great time capping it off with the game yesterday, and 3 points was just the icing on the cake there. So a wonderful, wonderful time, and just, man, great weekend. Great weekend. 3 points.
Well, we're going to battle through here with with the less than 100% voices soldiering on, as Austin FC did yesterday with a new record. We set the lowest possession in club history record last game. Top it in a big way. Didn't just edge it out. Oh my gosh. Can't wait to talk about this one. We have a couple other pieces of news. We got an outgoing player officially here, E. We're going to touch on the best keeper in the world as well. Maybe we'll talk some of the nonsense along the way as well. But before we jump into episode 209, just want to remind all of you listening or watching on our YouTube channel, best way to support the show, download the audio version of our episodes wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, what have you. You can toggle on auto downloads. It supports the show financially going forward, and you won't have to think about it again. You can go the extra mile, rate and review the show, or if you're watching on our YouTube channel, hitting that subscribe button also helps us grow the show, and you can hit the notification bell to know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. And of course, on this episode, hit the thumbs up. Help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords. Atone for your sins. Wash yourselves clean in the second place vibes of the North End, E. And I mentioned second place. Austin FC is in second place, but now down a center back, because we mentioned this, I think, over the last 2 or 3 episodes here, but it becomes official this morning. So now we can really dive into what this move means for the Austin FC roster, for the cap sheet moving forward here, not just in 2025, but I think beyond is also an aspect of this that we can discuss. But the club putting out the press release this morning, Austin FC has officially reached an agreement with BK Häcken in Sweden for the transfer of defender Leo Väisänen. Of course, came over from Elfsborg in January 2023. We were very excited about Leo showing up, and even despite the loss in that first season opener against St. Louis, I think we felt pretty good about Leo after that, and then just could not stay healthy. And when he was healthy, couldn't really get a rhythm when he did get the time. And then I think we just had some center backs that came in and played a little bit better than he could over the last year or so. Like Brendan Hindsight comes to mind. Julio kind of held him off as well. So I think I am definitely sorry that it didn't work out the way that we thought it could, both for us as fans of the club and for the player. But I think now, ultimately, where everybody is at right now, at present, this is the best move for all parties involved. So I do thank Leo for his time and effort here with our favorite team. Just didn't work out great, and that's going to happen sometimes over the 100-year war here. So, I have no ill will against Leo. Just didn't work out.
Yeah, I've been trying to work on some growth and stuff and let that go. So I guess I also have no ill will towards Leo here, but happy this is done. Happy that we're done with this saga, this era for Leo here in Austin. I wish him well. It didn't work out, and we're on to bigger and better things, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And we certainly have said our piece about Leo in
Yeah.
the low times
Yep.
of his Austin tenure, so we don't need to rehash that. And moving on to the roster sheet here now, we now have 3 senior slots open, 2 international slots, and 2 U22 slots. And of course, you can't forget, we do have half of our supplemental roster open as well. 5 of those 10 slots currently vacant with Damian Loss out on loan. So I will shout out our buddy Joel, who reminded me that now technically Austin FC's roster is not compliant, right? Because you have to fill at least 18 of those senior spots. So what happens in this case is that until we fill that 18th senior slot, the league will hit us with a minimum budget charge for that spot. So that's something we do need to add into the cap sheets here. We'll do that after we finish recording here today. So there'll be another, $108,000 charge on the budget just for that empty spot until we fill it. And then that will go away. So I don't think that is of any concern really, but just for those of us who are sick enough to care about the cap math there, that's what will happen with that spot for the time being. So I guess I want to know your thoughts here first, because I know in the off season, right, especially in the early parts of an off season, I talk about my dream scenario for the upcoming window, the upcoming moves that we can make with our roster flexibility. I have another dream scenario in mind, but I want to let you get in a couple words here first.
Okay. Well, we definitely got to find some more center back help. That's where we got to start. I think, we've both been on record here that there's plenty of bodies that you can get that are readily available at the center back spot, whether they be MLS players, you make a trade for somebody, or you go get somebody else there. I don't think Roto is going to be paying any sort of transfer fee for depth at the center back position. So I'm not really concerned about that. When we were doing our season preview, I was one of the people who felt like we needed some more midfield help as well. I thought that would be an area where we could improve. I just don't think you can ever have enough of those guys, particularly with the fact that midfielders have to, they're box to box guys. They're more defensive minded players. Sometimes can struggle on the offensive side of the ball. So I think there's a little more leeway to flesh out that depth in the midfield. So I'd be looking forward to that. I'd imagine your plans are much more grand than mine.
Well, it does involve more than 2 moves, that's for sure. But starting, I guess, with center back help, because I do think that, again, I'm not Roto. I don't think I could build this roster as efficiently as he has so far. But to me, center back help before this primary window closes here in April, I think is of paramount importance, just because we know how thin it can get just so quick. We just saw it, right? And part of that is fueled by the international window, but a little tug of a hamstring here, a little ankle turn there, and all of a sudden we go from 3 center backs now to 1. And then we're playing Guilherme at center back as we did yesterday, and calling up Antonio Gomez and Nico Van Rijn. And I love those guys. I'm not ready to see them at the first team level yet, with where I think this team can go in 2025. But I also don't think we need to sign somebody who is certainly not a TAM center back. No, maybe you can go get a U22. I would not turn my nose up at that. But for me, it would be supplemental center back here, and you go grab somebody off the scrap heap. Of course, that does evoke emotions of the Tarek variety, right? Just going to get kind of a stopgap there. But to me, it's not really a stopgap, because Leo was already not playing. So we should be going to look for a guy who's serviceable, yes, but one who fits as the 4th center back, as depth, right? Where you're not dead if he's in there, like you apparently were with Tarek, right? We saw him for, 70 disastrous minutes, responsible for giving up all 3 of those goals. But I just don't know if we should use a senior slot on another center back when the guy that we're sending out wasn't playing anyways.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. We weren't getting anything out of Leo. So I think it's more important that this is a fit for our culture. I think a veteran presence is what I would want instead of a younger type of player here. And of course, I don't want to spend any TAM on getting a center back depth piece here. Like you said, we were able to get through this in this last game with Guilherme at center back but I don't want to get caught in this situation more often than not and make sure that Guilherme is in the right position. So going out and getting somebody for that supplemental spot, again, a veteran, I think is the right way to go here. Somebody who fits our culture, fits our team, and it's just going to be something that we can feel okay about when they're in the game. Obviously, Julio has had some soft tissue injuries and stuff like that we have to be mindful of, because now this is 3 consecutive seasons we've seen that with Julio, where he's had like some hamstring stuff. It was particularly early on in the seasons. So it's going to get done. There's no way we're rolling out just 3 center backs here. Like Roto's going to get this done.
You wouldn't think so. And again, like if it comes in where it's a senior roster guy, then fine. Like I'm in, right? Like I don't think there has been much that Roto has done. I have a couple. I would certainly have questions for the man about certain things that he's done, but it's all seems to be fairly efficient and the players panning out. So, because again, like to your point, if the summer window came a little bit earlier, like in the true middle of the season, then okay, maybe I'm not as worried about trying to tough it out with 3 true center backs, the call-ups that we have, being able to slot Guilherme in there, right? But we don't want to do that. And so having to wait and try to make it through all the way 2/3 of the season to late July before bringing in somebody else, I do think we're going to see at least a body, and I think it's going to be supplemental. But then to complete the dream scenario here, right? Because with the moves that Roto has made, not just the Leo purchase, but green cards and buyouts of Zardes and moving Diego Rubio to the supplemental roster, right? Now we have those 3 senior slots. And if we've got guys who are under contract for 3+ years here on these international slots, a Biru, a Bukari, a Svatak, a Dubersarski, right? A Savovic and a Zuni. If we can get any of those guys a green card and you match 3 senior slots and 3 international slots, you can have a mid-season feast here. And you can bring in a TAM level. You could do 2 TAM level guys if you want. I think with the budget space that we estimate this team to have, especially with Leo out of here now. Again, 2 U22s, a TAM, 2 TAMs, and a U20, whatever. Like, there's just so much more room than I anticipated in late March for Roto to be working with for the rest of this season. Like, you can level up this team again, another level or 2 from what we've already seen to start the year. I'm getting like the off-season tingles here, and we're like almost at the end of the primary window. So you know me, man, about this stuff. I'm very excited.
Look, man, Roto has continued to be aggressive even into this season. You get this deal done here. We know he's still going to be cooking some stuff up. We got a little bit of that insider information that there's another player from a different country going to be in here once that international window is ready for whoever that player might be. And that's the one thing I've really appreciated about it is like we went through this rebuild. It was understood that that's what the process we were going to be going through. But now you have this early success, which is something I do want to talk about more too once we get into this game. Obviously, fantastic to be sitting in second place right now, but is it sustainable playing the way that we've been playing these last 2 victories here? I'm not sure or anything like that, but being aggressive now still just signals to me that this dude wants to win this year. Like we're going to be making a push to get this done this year. So a lot more to come. I'm incredibly excited. You look at the flexibility you have here, particularly with the international slots, as well as those U22 initiative guys who we know can be super impactful players that don't hit your charge, which is fantastic. So there's just going to be a lot more to come, in my opinion. You start to see those 3 senior spots right there, man. And it's just like you said, the possibilities of what he can bring in, the scouts that we have all over the world. So I'm ready, man. Keep this feast going.
Yeah, I think, and just to kind of build off before we move on, build off what you were saying about getting some midfield help with some of these spots. Like maybe that's where you go, a more attacking minded, maybe in the mold of an Owen Wolff, because bro, the way he's playing, we might not have him very much longer. Like, I don't think we should sell him this year just because of what he brings to the roster build with his 0 cap hit being on that homegrown. But like, if he continues on this ascent, and I don't think it's a straight up arrow the rest of the year, right? But there's just going to be no way that there aren't significant offers coming in for him. And he's a player that I think we need to, when that offer comes and he wants to go, I think we need to help facilitate that for the right price, right? And so it's not just the talent that you would be losing in that midfield, the talent that appears to be getting better almost week over week, but the loss of the roster efficiency of a guy you're getting so much production and so many quality minutes from with zero cap hit on that supplemental roster. The best way, because we don't have an Owen Wolff homegrown coming up, not quite yet. Like Micah, come on with it, right? Irvin, like once we see that improvement, then okay, we can start talking about minutes for those guys, but they're just not there yet. And so if you can go out and buy a U22, right? Couple $1 million transfer fee, but when you're on the U22, you're hitting the cap at it was $200K, I think. That's how you can try to replace that production for a similar type of deal on your salary cap, right? And you can pay this player up to the max cap hit, but we get that discount at the U22 slot. So I think we may see something like that, whether it's in the summer or next offseason, where we're trying to replicate what we're getting out of Owen for a similar type of cap hit if we think he's moving on soon. And it, again, over the first month plus here, it really seems like that timeline has accelerated from what I thought it would be coming into this year.
Yeah, like 20 years old, he's out here balling. He's been our best player for 5 games pretty much. You know, he's been in the conversation every single game, and he's been the most consistent performer. And yes, when that time comes, it boils down to the amount of money for me. You have to get the right value for him because we understand A, what he brings to the team, and B, how advantageous the salary cap rules are that we are using for Owen Wolff here. So I don't want to think about it too much because he's just been so fantastic. And we understand, and we've talked about good business where it's just like, you get a young stud like this, he continues to grow, continues to get better, and then you go ahead and make a profit off of that, flip that, and keep building this roster. But when you're attached to one of these players like I am with Owen, and I think a lot of people are coming around to him a lot more now, given what he's been doing and that Josh is no longer here, it would be a sad day for me, and I don't want to think about that too much because I do think it is down the road here. But I like the U22 midfield idea. I think that's great. I think that's where you target those international guys that you want to get and like have some long-term success with those types of players. So I think that might be coming down the pipeline. But elsewhere, you know, I'm looking at this roster and the depth pieces we had, and I thought that our depth was really on display yesterday. I thought that despite the fact that we were banged up, we were missing guys for international duty and everything, I thought that the depth was really on display. You got a fantastic game out of Johnny. You got serviceable work out of Komanich with some high points, a couple low points. We'll get into that as well too. But I thought the depth was really on display, and finding any sort of like specialist piece, like you said, a more attacking minded, forward facing player, I think is where you're really going to go ahead and butter your bread.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And again, we can go ahead and move on because now we're starting to get into the rest of the roster to yesterday's match. So we'll move on. Before we get into yesterday's match, a couple quick international recaps. Now our ex-player, Leo, went 45 for Finland today in the second half. So he was ready to go. A little bit of a heartbreaker for Ukraine in their 2-leg Nations League match there. I think it was a Nations League qualifier. But against Belgium, right, they win at home last week 3-1. And in the 70th minute, they are still up on aggregate 3-1. It was a 0-0 scoreline, and they give up 3 goals in the last 20 minutes of regulation there in the second leg to lose 4-3 on aggregate. Svatak played 89 minutes yesterday, you know, taking on De Bruyne and the rest of that Belgian side. So tough loss there. I didn't have eyes on that match. So hopefully, again, Svatak played 89 minutes. I think that probably means he made it through healthy. So I'm just excited to get our big Ukrainian back for next week, taking on St. Louis City on the road. But last but not least here, I talked about Jimmy getting the start last week for Liberia, right? They came up short in that one. I think he played 70-ish minutes. So they played Sao Tome and Principe today, as I mentioned on last week's episode. And check this out from the first half. You've got Liberia up 1-0 in the 32nd minute, but off this long throw, and a hell of a long throw, boop, Jimmy with a goal for Liberia. World Cup qualifying goal. Jimmy run into the photographers, Jimmy time, running to the fans, Jimmy time, runs to the bench, Jimmy time. Congrats to Jimmy, man. This was awesome to see. Crowds going crazy, scoring for your country. Congrats to him, man. This was awesome to see. I did a little fist pump in my chair here this morning watching this. This was awesome.
This was absolutely fantastic. So happy for Jimmy. And again, this is just stuff that he's adding to his resume, the experience that he's been getting, the opportunity he has here to play and represent his country, making the most of it. So it is Jimmy time, baby. And I hope it keeps rolling the way it has been thus far once he comes back here and he's playing at the next pro level.
Yep, absolutely. So that does it for the internationals here, E. Let's move into the San Diego match.
Okay.
We'll have fun with this one, right? I'm ready to hear the victory song later. But the first place I want to start is the lineup. Because this was, I know we were not the only ones, not just scratching our heads, but probably getting ready to heavily critique this lineup if it did not go well. Because this lineup comes out an hour before the match yesterday. First of all, as I said, I fully expected Julio to be able to start when he was not listed on the official injury report on Friday. But that is not what happened. Guilherme Biru slides in to play center back with Jean Kolmanich taking over at left back. And then we say, fuck it. We don't need wingers. And your midfield is Ilya Sabovic, Danny, and Owen, with Diego Rubio pulling a start up there next to Brandon Vasquez. And so, you and I, in our pregame state there, right? The excitement is building. We're scratching our head, trying to figure out what this lineup is going to look like, what it's going to look like in possession, what it's going to look like on the defensive side of the ball. And I think it took us 20 or 30 minutes of going back and forth, could it be this? Could it be that? Before we realized, maybe this is going to look a little bit like a box midfield look in possession, and we're really going to try to play more direct against this team. But what I was having trouble coming to terms with was I get playing more direct against this team when you have the ball because of how slow they are, especially with the guys they were missing. But we took our fast guys off the field. And again, the guys who were out there are plenty fast, but our fastest guys were benched. So again, I was very, very skeptical coming into this match. And I'm happy to say that I was very, very wrong. I think Nico got this right. And I think even in his press conference, I think he said, it may have been this week or last week, but I've heard him say before, it's but if the bounces don't go your way, then everybody's coming in criticizing you. So again, they took a chance. The coaching staff as a whole identified how they wanted to both defend and attack this San Diego team with who they had available. And again, you come out with the victory. I don't have much negative to say about it. While I certainly could have thrown out some critiques beforehand in the emotional state I was in.
And I mean, you saw the directness of the attack right from the rip. You get BV out in space, not once, but twice, early on in this game. You get the Johnny goal. That's a breakaway goal as well. So you saw the direct attack, and, we're going to get into the stats and everything. We got the heat map and how we looked out there and everything, but it worked, man. It was the right call, and my first thought was, okay, so Buka's been benched. That was my first thought. I was I think I asked you, I was have you heard any sort of knock? Is his fitness not up or something like that? But he had to ride the pine, which is something I said the week before. We talked about benchable offenses, Danny at the top of that list coming into this game. And I thought Buka was right behind him. And you saw both of those players lose their starting roles here. I think Danny probably more permanently, unless this box-to-box midfield is something that's going to be more of a staple for this team. I don't think Buka is going to be permanently benched, but I do think he needed a bit of a wake-up call, a bit of a reality check to go ahead and get his mind right, because we all understand the speed. We know the skill, everything that he has. It's just a mental thing right now with him. And, he's still going to get patience and grace from me, but I do think that there's plenty of times where you have to sit a player down and just be like, look, man, we need you to get your head right.
Well, and that's something that you especially were calling for last year, in the sense where this guy needs to maybe take a seat for a game or what have you, but we did not have the depth. And you do have, even in an international break, with injuries and guys missing for call-ups, like you have enough depth to configure this lineup and try to send that message as a coach. And so that is a luxury. Like, if we're being honest, it's a luxury that the previous coaching staff was not afforded, at least last year, right? Like, I don't think don't need to rehash the first couple years, but certainly last year with the rebuild, the depth just wasn't there. So getting into this one, 10 seconds in, man, San Diego almost has a disaster at the back. Like, we start with the ball, we do the long boot from Stuver, kind of left center of their third, and it bounces and kind of comes in between, I think it was McVeigh back there, and Dos Santos, the keeper, and like Rubio nearly pokes it away and into the goal because of that miscommunication. Didn't quite get it there, but I mean, north end right off the rip on Dos Santos's ass there. Like, it was a good showing from the fans, I think, as a whole yesterday, but especially in the north end, there was some good energy there in the afternoon sun in the third minute. I think it's fair to call for a red card here. Owen Wolff plays Vasquez through right up the middle, and Ian Pilcher, the young center back there, he might be a rookie, takes him down. Whistle blows and the yellow card comes out. And so again, like I said, I think there could be a shout for a red here, but I also think, especially on the replay, I mentioned this to you at the time, but of course we're also like, all right, yeah, give him the red card. But Dos Santos is also making a run to that ball that's played out in front of Vasquez. So I think the officials probably determined that it wasn't a clear goal scoring opportunity because the keeper could have potentially got there. And that's why it's yellow and not red. But again, like, San Diego, very, very shaky to start with the immediate miscommunication. And then what I think it could have been fair to give the red, but we weren't super up in arms, right, about it not being a red. It could have been.
I thought I was pretty up in arms about it. I think the ref choked on the whistle a little bit here. It's that early in the game. You don't want to impact the game. I understand that. You don't want to make the impact on the game where it's like immediately a team's down a man. But a foul like that on a breakaway, I mean, I just think it's pretty convenient to be like, oh, yeah, Dos Santos could have gotten to this ball.
I mean, it was close.
It was close. He had made a good run to get out there. I agree.
Once you blow the whistle, you're making a big decision there, one way or the other.
Yeah. So I think also the totality of the game and how bad that ref was might be impacting the fact that I just didn't trust his judgment from the start here, because I did think this was a red, and I thought that the officiating was the worst that we've had all season thus far. I thought the officiating for the first 4 games has been fine. I haven't really had many complaints about any of the guys, but this was the one day where it was just like, man, dude, I don't know what you're watching out here. So, I'm okay with him not getting a red. I personally thought it was a red.
Yeah. Well, look, an official's job is always harder when Diego Rubio gets the start. And he was very, very active. I want to say, did actually kind of push the ref a little bit in the first 15 minutes. Got a talking to, I think, 3 times in the first half. Anyways, Austin starts hot here. Despite San Diego, us not being able to capitalize on San Diego's mishaps in the first few minutes, in the 10th minute, this is where I think when we were watching, it took us a couple minutes to say, okay, let's try to analyze something here instead of just vibing with our boys. Because shout out to Pete and T Plebs and AG, happy birthday AG. But Austin defensively has changed the shape, right? We have been defending 4-4-2 in the shell, right? And it was 4-3-3 yesterday, really clogging up the midfield and trying to make San Diego play around the flanks and up their wings. So we force a turnover here. This was actually Sabovic is the one that gets the tackle here, and that ball deflects to Diego Rubio, who immediately turns his eyes towards goal and sees Vasquez making a run, plays him through on a dime. And so you've got Vasquez in here against Dos Santos. He dribbles him about 10 yards out and just taps it home. From our angle there, we had trouble with angles yesterday, but from our angle there, it looked like it was much tougher, I think, than it actually was for Vasquez to put that one home. But opening goal of the game, his first in an Austin FC uniform. And that was great to see, man. Great start.
Absolutely. I mean, once we get on that breakaway, you and I both stand up. I start hugging you already. Like, here we go. Like, we're about
Oh
to
yeah,
get
you
it.
did.
Like,
You fucking grabbed me, dude.
we're about to get it right here. It's coming. And we did. And a great finish by BV. I definitely thought he was running out of space to make a good angle on this shot, but that's why he's a professional. Like I was telling Uncle Dave, professional.
Yeah.
So he's a goal scorer. I'm glad he opened up his Austin account here. And like you said, there was a good energy in there yesterday, and it was electric, and it was just kind of fun having like an afternoon game and everything like that. I felt like there's a lot more families out than there usually
I agree.
was.
Yeah.
So it just felt good. And like we said, the fan base has been ready to latch on to this, and you get that opening goal, and baby, we're rocking.
Yep, absolutely. 14th minute, you get the first yellow card of the second yellow card, excuse me. Obviously, Pilcher had one. Second one, Luca De La Torre for grabbing Danny to stop a counter for Austin. And then in the 19th minute, you've got John Kolmanich hugging that near sideline to the broadcast camera in our own defensive third. And he gets like a sliver of space to loft a long, curling through ball through the air. And this ball is fucking sick, dude. Like, I know I think it's fair to say, like, I probably talk down on John's abilities more often than not. But the one thing this man does better than anybody on the pitch 95% of games is have a left foot that can do, like, whatever he wants with the ball. Yeah. And this fucking ball to Brandon is perfect. Stunning. Like, I don't know if you could do it better. And I there are a couple times I think in this game where Brandon could have done better. Obviously, he had a good game, ends up being the man of the match in the stadium. But Dos Santos is closing down here, and he's got a defender much closer to him than that first breakaway. But I do think he could have done better here. Just kind of pokes it on frame, but it goes right to Dos Santos. And again, I know it was a little bit of a tougher ask here, but you just dribbled this kid. Like, can you not outrun him 2 more steps to the right and just tap it in? Again, not complaining, but he could have done better.
I mean, I'm not going to say you're saying you think he could do better, because we know he could do better.
Okay,
we know he could do better. He's got the left side of the net pretty open. I think you want to try to keep that ball on the ground, you know. But like, you know, we're having a talk early on in that match where, you know, we get this breakaway here too, and everyone fully understands you're not going to capitalize every single time, no matter what. If it's if you have 5 one-on-ones, I don't expect 5 goals every single time. Sometimes you miss, you know, it fucking happens. But he could have done better this for sure. You know, and I thought Kolmanich, a solid game. You know, he had his hands full. He had to deal with Dreyer. He had his hands full with Dreyer, who is a very dangerous, very crafty player. And I didn't think that we were giving him the same level of support in regards to double teams that we have seen in the past for players of Dreyer's ability. So this ball was fantastic. I think we would have classified it as a baby fart if we're playing FIFA. Yeah. Dropped it right in there like a little baby fart, nice and soft. So an absolute hell of a ball. And still, it just felt like, you know, like the energy was still building. You get this breakaway here again, and it just feels like the roof is about to blow off this place.
Yep. Well, I mean, literally moments later, San Diego's next possession is turned over. Brandon Vasquez gets fouled trying to hold it up in San Diego's half. And the ball is stationary for a moment, like less than 2 seconds between when the foul is called and when Owen Wolff just runs up because he sees John Gallagher, as San Diego's rest defense is stationary just like the ball. Owen sees John take off, plays him through, and John is in here all by himself, gets to the edge of the area, takes a peek at Dos Santos and the target, calmly slots it past for the second goal. And look, the party is on, man. Like, I think I was literally like moments before this talking to you about how I wish we took advantage of rest defense more often, and boom, they fucking do it right in front of us. Like, I was elated, and you know, obviously another goal comes here in a few minutes, but for about 5 minutes there, the party was really on.
Yeah, I look back, I see our buddy TJ, he's going 5 goals today, and I was like, I'm in, baby, let's do it. You know, and it definitely felt that way. Super heady play by Owen here to go ahead and see that run, watch it materialize, and make a perfect pass. Johnny, who we have given some flack for in the past in regard to his finishing ability, particularly when he had to make that switch from offense back to defense, and then we jump him back up to the wing again. So this was a hell of a strike, and like you said, we're really rocking now, and it looked like it was going to be a bloodbath because these runs just kept coming. They kept presenting themselves. And like you talked about, the lack of speed that San Diego has, I know that I just looked at some of their stats for the season, and they're first in possession now, which makes sense after what happened yesterday. But we knew beforehand that they wanted to be able to control the ball, and we were content to let them do that. But they just were not able to stop us getting these behind into space runs. And I do think that that is partially because they were starting a depleted back line without McNair there, who could have really changed this game. But the game plan was great. It worked, and it was the right call.
When I didn't see Tej put up the 5, but literally a minute before this happens, I leaned down to all you guys in our row and said, this is a 5er tonight. And then boom, 27th minute, Sverkov, I forget, again, struggling with some of these pronunciations on the San Diego side. He was good.
I really like him.
Yep, I agree. Yep. He plays a nice ball into Valakari, who I also think is pretty good. And Valakari's got his back to goal just inside the Austin 18. He lays it off pretty quickly for De La Torre, who has a crack. And Stuver is scooping this up easily. Unfortunately, Heinzike deflects it, sends it 2 feet to Stuver's right. He's off balance. So we're at 2-1. And look, I was going to take full blame for that because I called the 5er right before it. But now you let me off the hook. Everybody blame TJ.
There we go. That shot sucked. That shot was doing a whole lot of nothing but just rolling to Stuver if it doesn't get deflected here. So they got incredibly, incredibly lucky. And I've been seeing some San Diego fans chatting about how they gifted us goals. And it was like, what do you, we were running rock shot on your back line. Dude, we were doing whatever we wanted. Like, what are you talking about?
Well, I told you that whole fan base was getting too big for their britches after their first 4 games.
Which, I mean, if we had come out in our inaugural season, we're undefeated. We'll
do that anytime. Yeah, we win 2 games in a row.
To say that they gifted us goals when your only goal was a deflection, that was literally going to be one of the easiest saves of the day. Come on, man.
Yeah, and we should have had. I mean, I've seen people say we could have had 6 or 7, and like maybe yes, if the perfect game happens. But I think 3 was a more fair scoreline, and 4 would also, I think, fit the mold.
I think 4 was reasonable.
Yeah,
I think 4 was absolutely in play.
I mean, we had 6 big chances created.
Yeah, it was in play for sure.
It's 2022 numbers, dude. 34th minute, yellow card to Danny here for taking out Sverskov, and then 41st minute, Austin with what on the night in the last 2 weeks is a rare moment of sustained possession. You played back to Stuver here and then just slice right through the middle of their defense, which was just piss poor all night. Like there was a reason we got so much with so little. Stuver to Sabo. Sabo takes a turn, 1 touch, hits Owen. Owen does the same. Take a turn, take a touch, and releases Vasquez again down the right. And as BV gets to the area, he goes for goal and sends it into 122. Maybe could have tried to cut it back to Rubio or pop it back post to Danny. But in the moment and on the replay, while those options were on the table, I have zero issue with the decision to shoot there. And again, that's a shot he's going to make. We saw him make it earlier, and it's a shot he's going to continue to take and make throughout his tenure here in Austin. So I had really no qualms with that. And it was a really good buildup. Again, like going direct through the middle with this kind of you didn't get to see it a ton because we barely had the ball, but in that first half, kind of 4-2-2-2 almost, just completely playing up the middle channels there and just slicing them up.
Just absolutely slicing them up. I'm right there with you. I do not disagree with, I don't think that this was a poor decision by BV here. Danny's a little late. I don't know if you really could have seen him as Danny flashes a little after the shot goes off. But yeah, I'll live with that look 9 times out of 10. I'll live with that look.
Yeah. And it does get a little leggy to end the half here.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
really right before the last whistle in the 3rd minute of the 3 given, Willie gets some space on the right side of Austin's 18 after Dreyer. Great hustle play to keep a ball in that was going out on the end line there. And Willie crosses it into the mixer. Valicari comes in unmarked. A lot of power on this header, and Stuver's able to poke it over and out for a corner. And then off that corner, Stuver catches that service, and we go to the half. But look, man, it was the last 5-6 minutes of that half. We were saying get to the half because San Diego did start to have a little bit of like what I think you could classify as like true momentum, right? They had all that possession. You look at the momentum chart, it's just because they have the ball in our third all game, but they couldn't get shit. The end of the half, they were starting to make some inroads.
It was getting nervous, man. And like you said there, I think leggy was the right way to describe it. It felt like there was a lot of adrenaline. It's probably weird for those dudes to be playing an afternoon like that. And you saw that there was a bit of lag happening as we were trying to limp into that halftime with the lead 2-1 there. Fortunately, able to do it.
And coming out of the half, no changes for Austin personnel-wise, but defensively then when you're able to set up in your shape, they did go back to a 4-4-2 here in the second half, and Coach did mention that after the game, but we can get to that after the minutes here. Danny with a great ball in behind to Diego Rubio, who may have been offside if they did go to review it. The flag stayed down in the moment. He gets a shot off that goes just wide of the back post past Dos Santos, but he also had Brandon Vasquez wide ass open on the back post, and I would have rather seen that. It's not the last time this half that I think passing instead of shooting would have been the right play, offside or not.
Yeah, no, Diego wants to shoot. He wants to score. I understand that. Not the worst decision I've seen by a long shot, but I do think that he had an opportunity to play BV, let BV go get his brace there.
Yeah. 55th minute, yellow card to McVeigh for taking down Danny on the left side of a break. And so you get Kolmanich on this free kick and whips in. Again, that left foot, man, is like...
It's one of the best in the league. It really is one of the best in the league.
And puts it just to the perfect spot on the back post. And Brendan has a tap in here. And just before Heinzai can get to it, credit to Valicari. Kind of a desperation boot in there, but does get a touch and gets it out for a corner. And nothing doing on that corner, but great ball by Jean and great positioning by Brendan. I just think it's a better defensive play in that desperate moment that Valicari was able to make and keep Austin from reigniting the party.
Yeah, and look, with Kolmanich, man, we talked about why was he getting an extension earlier in the season? Why did he get that? Like, what does Roto see in him? And he does have his left foot is a game-changing skill. That is an asset. To decision day, right? Exactly.
Change the game.
Exactly. If his role is we get spot minutes out of you when we really need you, but like we bring you in for a late push if we're down or something like that, I feel really good about that because he possesses an elite talent with his left foot. I want to talk about Danny a little bit. Don't think he stood out one way or the other. Didn't stand out bad, have a lot of some of the struggles that we've seen him have this season. And I don't think that he stood out in regards to playing really well. I do think that having Sabo and Ilya out there with him might help him a bit more because Sabo, I love Danny's defense and how he plays defense. He's very aggressive. He's undersized. He's small.
Sure.
Sabovic is a big, imposing kind of figure in that midfield, and he's a great defender, which I think might allow Danny. We've been looking for this key, and I keep trying this key in all kinds of different doors where it's what is going to unlock Danny, where he's going to be able to push forward and try to actualize some more of his talent and everything like that. I think Sabovic might be that guy right now, but I was very impressed with Sabovic as well.
Yeah, I agree on Sabo for sure. 57th minute. Owen wins the ball back near midfield. Danny, Ilya, and Owen combine to kind of keep it away from the San Diego counterpress. And then Owen turns and splits two defenders, breaks that line, and then plays Vasquez through perfectly in on Dos Santos. And BV just shanks this one, man. You got to chip. And look, I think this is the first time all year, and I'm not saying this seriously, but this is the first time all year where I was like, oh, well, Driussi would have done that. Driussi's chipping that in. I mean, he ain't missing it.
No, he would have made it.
And so again, Brandon will make it the next time. But that should have been goal number 3. Absolutely.
I absolutely should have been goal number 3. And that's why I think 4 is really fair, because this should have been a goal.
Yeah. And you see who would have gotten another fucking assist would have been Owen Wolff. 59th minute here. Savage plays a great ball over the top to Brandon down the right. And this time he's got a defender on his hip. So he cuts it back, rips a shot just over the crossbar. So again, just being very aggressive, everybody feeding the big man, which is what we want to see, especially in this matchup against what on the day was a lesser team. And after that shot, we do get Osman coming in for Diego, which in the 4-4-2 pushed Owen up to the top, and we had Osman out there on the right. And I love seeing him come in and play on the right. And I think, we get a lot of good stuff out of Buka here, or at least opportunities.
Yeah, always excited to see Buka on that right side. For his overall performance for this game, I wasn't incredibly thrilled. I did need to walk back some of my takes that I had in the moment for sure, and into our buddy Mason, who's in our group chat, and I kind of flamed him for having Osman's back.
Yeah, you did.
I do apologize. It was not as bad as it looked. Reassessing this game after the fact and everything, we're just trying to hold on to this 2-1 lead. And, we have a bunch of opportunities that we thought we could have scored goals on. The frustration was building, and, they had all 7 of their fans up there in their little fan section. And I didn't take kindly to that, because they were rowdy. They showed out pretty well for the amount of people who were there, and like how into it they were. So I do salute them for that. But things were getting a little tight, and I thought that Osman, particularly with the matchup that he had on that side, like, kill that dude. Like, was this the 16-year-old kid that they brought in, or?
Oh, that was later. But I mean, they already had like number 70 out there. It wasn't Willie. It was the other kid.
Bombino.
But I mean, like, dude, he ran. It was a rampage from him until the final fucking action.
Which is what we've been upset about the most, is the final action here and everything. But once we did see him come in, I was very excited, because of all that we had witnessed up until that point, where it's like, we're getting guys who aren't our fastest players into space one-on-one with the keeper. This is what Buka probably does best, because he's one of the fastest players in the league. So I was happy he was on the right, but we're going to have to get in some of the minutes here in the plays that he had. And I think we can have some discussions about the decisions that he made.
Yeah, and I think this is the first possession that Austin gets after he subs on in the 60th minute. He gets played in behind by Danny, and he's got Brandon Vasquez just wide-ass open for a tap-in, but takes a heavy touch and ends up having to kind of go in and slide with Dos Santos there, and Dos Santos rushes the loose ball and gets it out. And the offside flag does go up, but I'm still upset about the lack of the correct decision being made right there, because your teammate has a dunk and you have a contested layup. And like, he should still probably put that away if he's gonna. He didn't take the shot, right? The heavy touch let it get away from him. But I didn't see the flag go up in real time until I watched the replay here this morning.
Mm-hmm.
I have very seldom reacted as negatively as I did on that play. I think I screamed, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And I typically don't like to curse, because there are a bunch of children around us, right? But I was in the moment again, and poor perception there from the north end all the way down to the other side. I was really upset in the moment.
And this is probably the main reason why my voice is so gone, because I was also screaming past the effing ball, past the ball, and so we talked about it last week, right? Where it's like, stay ready or be ready so you don't have to get ready. And I don't think that showed immediately from Buka, particularly when you pair it with the fact that you did get benched, man, and you should be fully engaged in that game, ready to come on and know what you're going to do here. And this is, again, despite the offsides flag, I'm not bailing you out because of that. If that, if that got called and everything, you still made the wrong choice here. So shaky start, and that didn't make me feel great, because again, there's like your 4th or 5th opportunity where it's just like, this is a chance we got to finish.
And I mean, it's not the same thing, but it's akin to Danny coming off the bench last week against LAFC And the first notable play is doing the exact same thing that you kind of got benched for in giving it right to the other team. Again, that's more dire than Buka not making a pass or taking a heavy touch, but it's very, very similar. And again, I think we should have, as I think you are here, like being fair with the critiques there, where like, you know, if you're going to give up a goal, if you're Danny on a giveaway, if the flag had stayed down here through a review, like you got to make the passing because it's just as good as giving away a goal as not scoring the goal that should have been an easy one. So in the 64th, you do get a triple change from San Diego. Mighton, Lawfulsund, and Jop come in for Angel, Willie, and Pilcher. 2 minutes later, Buka gets a chance 2-on-1 breakaway with BV, but instead of playing him forward, he plays a pass across, and that allows the defense to recover. So again, could have done better there as well. 2 minutes later, San Diego poking around the Austin penalty area, which as this second half progresses, just becomes more and more Austin just sitting 8 guys back in their own box and daring San Diego to take shots from outside the area. But Austin in this instance able to clear with some nifty touches from Owen Wolff, and then he kind of slides to get it out to Danny on the left side. And Danny settles, plays Buka through over the top from left to right. And so when Buka gets on this ball, Vasquez is offside, but as Buka gets into the area, he checks back. One defender has made it back sprinting in between those two guys at this point, but not in a great position. And this is another one that in the moment I was much more upset with than I am on the replay, because I think when Bukari shoots this, Dos Santos has come out and I think put himself in a very good position as a goalkeeper, but this shot, like Dos Santos gets a touch to it and that forces it into the post and out. Like I do think this was a fine decision given the positioning of the defender that I couldn't see from the north end, and a good shot in itself, but a good play by the keeper as well to be able to get that touch and keep it out. And like maybe in a perfect world, you cut that back for Vasquez, who's able to take advantage of the defender who's just sprinting towards the net. Whereas Vasquez, as a highly talented striker in this league, could probably adjust his run to tap in a cutback pass there. But again, I'm not super up in arms about that today, but continuing to highlight where it's maybe not always the best decision-making here from Osman on the night, but he continued to get in the spots where we thought he would get. And that is the encouraging thing to me.
For sure.
I still very much back the player. Of course, I'm not dipping out on our boy after a game and a half of tough decisions, because look, this is the guy who crushed it in the preseason. And even though preseason can be a liar sometimes, right? Rodney Redis, Tomac Pochettino, like he came in, scored the first goal, face goal or not, scores the first goal in the first game and like was rolling. So it's a little bit of a downturn here. I think maybe similar to Danny. I think I expect Buka to be in the lineup at St. Louis next week.
Okay. Yeah. And I would be fine with that. The frustration I have is that it's repeated similar offenses in regard to the decision-making at the most crucial point for decision-making. And the chemistry right now is just really not there between those two. We have not seen really great service from Buka, particularly to BV. So, and that's going to take a little bit of time here. We're only in game 5 with both of these guys playing together at this point. So patience for sure. I just want to see Buka kind of get out of his own head, play his game, and not be too worried about people like us who might be criticizing him after the fact. Go ahead, get into that space. I had a great conversation with Irish Craig there. I won't do his accent and butcher it terribly, but he was just talking about some, I don't know, it was a famous coach or a coach he played for or something along the lines, just talking about how you can't teach pace. You can teach all kinds of aspects of this game, but you just can't teach raw speed. That is impossible to handle if you're not that fast. So he's going to keep getting these opportunities. Like they're going to keep coming. And I am encouraged that we were able to get into the type of space and situations that we were yesterday. I think it might be a bit of an outlier given who we were playing and the way that they were playing and who was available for that team. But I am encouraged with that. And to the points we made about BV on some of these fast breaks, the goals will come. We're going to get them. You know, we just want them. Like we want them bad.
Yeah. couple minutes later, you get Mighton splitting Galley and Bukari down the left side into the 18, and he plays it back towards the top of the area. Sabovic tries to slide and cut this out, but he misses. So you've got Dreyer there with maybe the cleanest chance that San Diego has on the night, and luckily he sends it over and into the north end. But just a momentary lapse there. And again, that's what can turn a result on its head in this game, in this league especially, right? We've seen it so many times before, usually to the detriment of our favorite team. But I think the luck was also with us, along with the talent and the game state and such. 77th minute, you get the return of Julio Cascante. Also, Jader Obrian comes in. Kolmanic and Sabovic take their leave. And then 4 minutes later, Saidi, the 16-year-old, in for Alvarado on the San Diego side of things. And 82nd, San Diego corner gets flicked on frame near post by Sverkov. I'm struggling with my guy here.
Call him Jeff.
Yeah, Jeppe. I think it's Jeppe. I don't know, bro.
My name is
Stuber. Episode title. Stuber touches it out for another corner. And then that second effort on the corner is cleared out. 4 minutes later, off a free kick to the left of Austin's 18-yard box, Dreyer ends up getting a look at goal, but Heinzike deflects that shot out for a corner. And then off that corner, from the opposite side this time, another near post flick, this time by Valicari, goes off the crossbar. So again, you can see it get tight here down the end. 87th minute, CJ and Dubersarski come on for Danny and BV. And we get 5 minutes of stoppage. I think they added one for some sort of stoppage we had there. I forget what it was, but the last notable play to me, because really in the stoppage time, there's not a ton that San Diego does to be actually threatening. And in that third minute, part of the reason you were able to keep the San Diego threat out of the Austin area in stoppage is that Owen plays CJ out on a counter here in the third minute of stoppage, and CJ works Jop all the way down the field to the corner, and then Loffelson comes to double, and CJ is able to win the corner off those two, and it pumps up the crowd. We're going crazy, 100 yards down the field. That was a great play by CJ. It's a minor part, a minor role in the overall great performance by Austin, but it was a very key one to close this one out and bleed an extra, 90 seconds off the clock there with the run, the hold-up play, waiting for the corner, and then the corner being played in. So I thought, again, in very minimal time, CJ made a significant impact on the game.
I mean, almost, I don't want to say an inconsequential play, but massive, like at the same time. You know what I mean? Like it was a massive, massive play by CJ. And that, I'll give him his flowers on that too. Stayed ready, came into the game, understood the situation, understood the assignment, did something that, is not going to show up on any stat sheet anywhere. You had to have been there, seen it, understood the impact that play made, because it was massive. It was a huge play to get us out of there. Like you said, the momentum had started to build in a much more positive, much more threatening way for San Diego. And the one guy I was consistently worried about potentially getting the ball and killing us was Dreyer. And he eventually breaks free a little bit, which with a great player, they usually do. But we were able to see this through, and this play by CJ was absolutely fantastic to take a lot of that pressure off. We saw it versus LAFC, where we were incapable of releasing the pressure and having the ball to go down there and earn a corner kick. Absolutely fantastic. Shout out, CJ.
24% possession for Austin FC in this one, besting the club record set last week of 29%. This was a very, very unique game state here. And again, very intentional by Austin. 17 shots to 11 in favor of San Diego, but 5 on target to 4 in favor of Austin. Like I mentioned earlier, 6 big chances created on FOTMob's model. 4 of those, of course, missed. 10 corners to 4 in favor of the visitors. They got a number of those in the last 15 minutes. XG on FOTMob's model, 2.27 on the recalc here this morning, 1.11 for San Diego, but expected goals on target, I think, tell the better story. Coming out of this one, 2.53 for Austin, 0.34 for San Diego, right? That 1.11 of XG is a volume number, not a quality number.
Absolutely.
So, and then the other thing I'll mention, coming out of this one as we can pull up the MLS stats here on Blue Sky. Very similar heat map there with all of our possession just kind of right in front of our own net and then kind of down the left side there. I don't know if they made a change with the social media admin, but whoever it is, bravo.
Yeah. Big bravo to you.
Look, that is something. Okay, so if you didn't see, I don't know if they posted it everywhere, but at least on Twitter. I think they quote tweeted San Diego saying, "Good game, Austin," with the Anchorman clip of Will Ferrell with an Austin FC logo over his face saying, "Go fuck yourself, San Diego." That's something I would tweet.
Yeah, you could lose your job for that for sure. And they just sent it, and it was absolutely incredible. You were walking out of the stadium, and you were, there's no way they just tweeted this. I was just like, what? Oh, that was great. Oh, yeah, man.
Bravo. Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's good content. Speaking of other good content here, Austin FC have now set new club records for points, wins, and goals allowed through the first 5 games of a season. Congratulations today to Owen Wolff making team of the match day here in week 5. And look, man, second time in a row we have a player on this list. Second time in a row that player is not on there for scoring a goal. And to me, that is just, again, it's just good signs almost all around with this team right now. And again, some of that when you come in the north end, right, after 2 wins, we're not looking very hard to find the negatives. But again, I think there's just over the body of work so far with 5 games. I was telling you earlier today, it is still too early for me to make sweeping conclusions about this team. I'm probably 3 or 4 games away from feeling more confident one way or the other, making more broad generalizations about the direction of this team. But just looking at these 5 games, man, and the results they're in, the way they've gotten the results, right? Like, I think all 3 wins were very, very deserved. I don't think I can make a great argument for getting a result against Colorado because I think the Rapids came in and played that one very well at the Cube. But we should have had a point at least, I think, against Portland. And so this team, I think, could maybe deserve to be on more points than they are right now, which is already kind of surprisingly, given 2022 and the start we had there. 9 points through the 5 matches with the 3 wins, being the club record there. It's a good start. And again, to highlight how volatile small sample sizes are, 2 weeks ago, we were calling it the worst start in club history, at least for the Vibes. And credit to the team. They have completely flipped that on its head. And again, they have the momentum right now, both with the fan base and I think in the Western Conference too, sitting in second as we pull up the Western Conference table. Now, again, small sample size theater. A win yesterday took you to second. A loss would have had you in 10th. So again, things are so tight. You could drop back down to 10th by next week. But you'd rather be in second than 10th here because you can look at these pretty standings for the next 7 days and say, look at our boys up there in second where we belong.
That's right, baby. And it feels so far removed from that absolutely awful performance there in Portland. You follow up a really high quality win versus LAFC with a good quality thrashing of San Diego. I know that they were shorthanded, but still you look at where they were sitting at, before this matchup, and they'd played well, and I want to see them at full strength. I thought that they did a lot of things that I was impressed with. I was more impressed. I walked away more impressed with them than I thought I was going to. But I still want to see them at full strength because they got some dudes, man, and they got some size.
Look at this G+ rating here from ASA, man, on Owen. 81. And you see where that line is, right? That was basically like a top 2 Owen Wolff performance in his career. Top 5 for sure, where you see that line landing on his G+ metric there. Here, that was just, the kid's on fire right now.
He's absolutely fucking on fire. I'm really happy to see Danny up there with that 71. I don't think that this is an end-all, be-all, but as we were going through the minutes there and everything, and I said I didn't think he stood out either way. I think that might not have been a little fair, because the balls he played,
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Owen gets 2 assists in this game. It's because the guys he didn't get 2. Sorry. Owen gets the assist to Johnny there.
Yeah. Should have had 2.
Should have had 2.
Danny should have had 2.
But exactly. They finished the goal that Owen set up.
Correct.
But Danny played multiple balls into space that were what we needed. So I am happy to see that, and I'm happy to stand corrected on my earlier assessment of Pep there.
So I also thought this was interesting from the MLS stat account. Just looking at the passing map in the final third there too.
That is wild.
And again, field tilt 90-10. And San Diego, like, again, they could have gotten lucky, I think, and pulled off a point here. But they were just the worst team in almost all facets. And for all of the metrics to look like this, again, this is why the game is not played on a spreadsheet. But these are just, some of this is just, it's wild numbers. And it's fun, like, and I think getting into more like kind of broad conclusions from the match, right? I've seen a lot, both yesterday after the match and then today, perusing, different group chats and Slack channels and social media timelines. Where, like, I don't know if we really know what to do with our hands right now, because I think you have kind of a split, and it's not a 50-50 split, but I think you have some fans that are a little bit glass half empty right now, and harping on some of the, I think, valid concerns that you can still have with this team in the early state that it's in. And then you have, I think, a slightly bigger contingent that are glass half full right now and not going overboard, but it's like, is this sustainable to win as we have the last 2 weeks with basically no possession? And I think the answer to that is yes. I also don't think, like, I think what we've seen and what we will continue to see over the long term is this coaching staff continue to iterate and adjust to the opponent. Because that's one thing that I think we've seen every match is they are willing and able to adjust to the opponent. Is it going to work every time? Of course not. The team is not going to win the remaining 29 games in a row or whatever, or that would be 31. I mean, Mike Cragnola would get on me for that. You know, I think he's all in on 32-2-0. But man, I think we're still kind of in an odd spot because we're winning in ways that we just have not before. And it's not the last 2 wins, man, how unique they've looked. They also don't look or feel to me like they're lucky. Like they do feel repeatable if that's how we decide to go play against somebody. And I also think we're going to see plenty of times where it's determined by the coaching staff that the move is to play in possession with who we have available or who we have starting that match. And that, again, is just very, very exciting for me to have the depth, not just with the player personnel, but the depth of knowledge and acumen and confidence from the coaching staff to go ahead and implement these more drastic changes, right? Because you and I have harped on over, especially the last 2 seasons, where the previous coaching staff was very much under the microscope, where like we would find those changes and try to bring them to the forefront, whether we won or lost. But they're just so much more noticeable now. You're seeing whether they work or not. I think you see that, or for me, I see it more clearly now, whether it was like in Portland where I was a bit frustrated with some of the changes we made. Going to the 4-4-2 in the middle of that second half was frustrating for me. But overall, again, I can appreciate what we've seen in those aspects. And then getting into Nico's presser, man, he once again impressed me personally with the ability and then the willingness to come in and recite different moments of the game and recall this is what was happening here, so we adjusted to this. He talked about going from 4-3-3, why we did that to start, and then how they did make some inroads to end the first half. And then we come out in the 4-4-2 and talking about, this is only things that we've seen from, like, I'm reminded of Steve Cherundolo when they made a mid first half adjustment against us in 2023 and dog walked us out of their building, right? And him coming in the post-game presser and say, we saw this, we adjusted, and then it was on. And Nico said similar things yesterday. And so again, it's fun to win.
Yeah, yeah. I've been very impressed with the way that Nico has handled those press conferences, and I appreciate being able to look at specific points and being like, "This is what we saw. This is the adjustments we're making." You love to have this level of flexibility with your team because owing up until the start of this season, we understood that we thought this was going to be a possession-based team. That Nico had this track record with that style of play, and that's what we were going to see. But you're consistently seeing the willingness to make changes in game two to very specific moments from the match that we are then trying to capitalize on and flip into our favor and really get this thing rolling. I had something else that I wanted to, going back to like the glass half full, glass half empty, whatever the fuck. I'm not too upset either way if that's where anyone stands. You know what I mean? I think there is a lot of things not a lot of things. I think there's critiques to be had with the way this team has looked. We've talked about the decision making. We've talked about sometimes the inability to finish the ball. But there is a ton of encouraging things going on right now with how this team looks. And when you pair that with the fact that we should become more cohesive, start to build a little bit more chemistry here as this season progresses, then you got to feel excited about it. I too will be holding off more judgments, sweeping kind of judgments about this club until I see more games. And I want to see, again, we still, how much of this season have we gotten minutes out of our three DPs on the field at the same time? It is an incredibly small amount of time with all three of those guys out there playing. So we have levels and I think that's why I'm probably in the glass half full, because we have levels that we can keep going up. You can see this team level up as the season progresses. And then you take into account that Roto's still up there in the office, finding names, trying to get players in here. So it's exciting.
One other thing I wanted to just mention from the presser, shout out to our buddy Phil West for pressing coach on getting an answer on Bukari and whether or not he was fasting while observing Ramadan here. Ultimately, Nico said, no, he hasn't been. So our speculation was incorrect there. You can't hit them all. So can't use that as an excuse for the decision making either. Two stats coming from the Austin FC Comms account. Playing as a center back on Sunday, Guilherme Biru made 6 clearances and 3 interceptions while winning 4 of 5 duels and both of his attempted tackles. So shout out to Guilherme for playing out of position there. Did quite well. And, probably should have been a clean sheet. And then Owen Wolff. Owen has assisted on all 3 of Austin FC's match-winning goals in 2025. And yesterday, he also created 3 of those 6 big chances. Won all 3 of his tackles in 5 out of 7 ground duels. So the Owen praise will continue, as he continues to ascend here.
As he keeps going up, yeah, absolutely. And Guilherme kind of got lost in the sauce here.
Did you say beer? You've got a leaf blower going on, I think, outside there. So I'm just going to vamp until you can get back on here, E. Just going back off that too, I do want to credit John once again, because being able to work like 2 left backs there playing next to each other, I don't think we have seen those guys on the pitch together. So like clearly they got some work in training this week. Like coach did say in Thursday's media availability, right? He's talking about that Guilherme is an option there. That I think he said Ilie was an option at center back, right? So they were working multiple guys into that spot. So like, is it the first time those 2 guys have seen each other on the pitch? Like probably not, but in an actual competitive environment, one that counts towards the standings, I think it absolutely was. So really kind of a joint congratulations to those guys for a job well done.
I'm right there with you. And I was going to say before the old landscapers here got going, Beer was kind of lost in the sauce, right? Because we know how free he likes to play. And like this is the opposite of playing a free position when you're a center back thrusted in to a dire kind of emergency situation. And his ability to do his job, know his role, and not end up in the striker position more often than not was really a testament to his maturity and growth. And the fact that this team put together a complete victory with all the players involved.
Anything else for you on the San Diego match? All right. Well, we will close out episode 209 checking in on
the best keeper in the world.
Damien Loss and Louisville City taking on Loudoun United in USL. Damien goes the full 90 in a 2-0 win. It was the Louisville home opener. Loudoun was DC United's reserve squad in USL, but that relationship changed with the creation of Next Pro. DC is still a minority owner, though, but they also don't have a Next Pro team. Loudoun hasn't ever finished higher than 10th in the East. So again, this is a club coming in that has historically struggled in this league. Damien did face 11 shots, though, 3 of them on target, saved all 3 for the clean sheet. Had a good save in first half stoppage time, punching wide on a good shot by Loudoun. Offensive player beat a couple defenders and had a lot of space to get off a shot from 15 yards. Shaky save in the 72nd minute. Not a lot of pace, but took a slight deflection. Damien tried to take it on the short hop, but it bounced off his chest right into the path of an offensive player. But that player got a touch and was moving too fast. Damien stayed big to get the ball down and cover it. Poor to start the play, but he recovered well. And this is, of course, our buddy Trevor Allison, our resident Louisville City fan, said he wasn't able to see all of the match, but from what he saw and then watching the condensed match highlights after the fact as well, no issues from Damien on set pieces this week, which is something that Trevor has been watching for us when we're not able to get an eye on it. Said SofaScore credited him with one high claim. So not too much to report. Most of the shots Trevor saw from Loudoun were not really close. More the same as last year for Louisville City. Aggressive pressing, lots of direct play, dominating in shots and chances while having less possession than the opponent, and still fun to watch. So a dub in the home opener for Damien. Keep it up, man. Another clean sheet.
Love to see it.
All righty. Anything else for you before we shut it down here?
No, sir.
All right, everybody. Appreciate you tuning in, sticking with us here on episode 209 of the North End Podcast. With these Sunday matches, we're going to continue the odd schedule here. We will be back on Thursday previewing Austin FC's matchup against St. Louis City SC. We'll get last business day going again. St. Louis City SC 2 on the schedule here for FCito. Also on Sunday, and of course, talk about everything else that happens in the Austin FC universe between now and then. Enjoy the beginning of your week, everybody. You know we'll do the same. We'll see you back here on Thursday for another episode of the North End Podcast. Until then, he's E, and I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Victory song.
Welcome to the North End where the passion's running high. We're here to talk football, Austin FC, our pride. ZG and E will take you on this ride. Week by week, side by side. It's Action 1, 2, 3. We're the rowdiest in town. The Pirates game and Uncle Dave and Big Fudge all around. We sing our songs, we chant as one. Through thick and thin, the match day's just begun. In the North End, we stand together. Through every game, through any weather. From the first whistle to the final blow. The North End will never let go. In the lights of Q2, our home, our sacred ground. In green and black, we fight, our voices loud and proud. Trio sees magic, Bukari speed, Stuva saving grace. With every goal we score, the lights turn verde, it's our place. So knows the mastermind, building our dream. Dan rules everything around me, as he strengthens our team. Let Rodo cook, he's got the perfect recipe. Austin FC, our heart and soul forever will. In the North End, we stand together. Through every game, through any weather. From the first whistle to the final blow. The North End will never let go.
The MLS season is here. If you want to make some picks on your favorite players in sports, check out Underdog Fantasy's Pick'em game. You choose higher or lower on between 2 to 8 players, and you can win up to 1,000 times your entry. Underdog is available in 33 states, including right here in Texas. To sign up, click the link in the description of this video and use promo code NORTHEND at sign up, and you'll get up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick to get you started. So join the millions of fans who have won billions on Underdog.